Hey, Joel here with Backwoods Brothers, and I'm here with my man
Tony.
And as you see today, we're a little bit more relaxed. We're calling it Backwoods Metro.
Well, we're outside of Portland, Joel, so
yeah.
we can go Metro today.
We're actually just outside somewhat. I mean, we do have our studio in the garage.
So are you saying it's cold in here?
Yes, it's cold.
Baby, it's cold outside.
We need some heaters.
Yes. So guys, if you come across some heaters and you want to send it to us, good, do it.
Or they can just, support us by merchandise so
That's
we can
true.
buy heaters.
Ooh.
Yeah, there you go.
So at backwoodsbrothers.com, you can find merch.
Yeah, and then we can buy heaters, and we won't be like this in about a month from now. But, hi, guys.
Plus, it's a little bit cold because we don't have anybody in between us until later.
Oh, yes, we do have a special guest showing up today.
Yes.
To talk about our subject, which is
slavery.
Not just any slavery. We're going to talk about more of like a modern-day slavery.
A modern-day slavery.
Yeah.
But before that, I was going to mention something to you about the current news. But before I do that, I also, guys, we love your feedback. So get on. We always say this and interact with our producer, Brandy. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to George, who's just doing some awesome stuff with family tonight. So definitely get online.
Yeah,
the other thing, like, share, and subscribe.
Yes, please do. And definitely the share part. Invite a friend. Let's sit down, throw some popcorn up in the bowl, and watch the show tonight.
I don't know if anybody cares, but I do. And I know you do. But look.
Yes. Yes, we actually have a case that is back from the cleaners.
Case back from the cleaners.
Yes. And,
it looks great.
Yeah, I think I got it dirty after there. Though you can see little spots in there. I was touching it.
You're talking about the glass?
Yeah.
It makes it look authentic. Yeah. Why are these up here? Just to give some context.
Yeah, just to kind of, for those who may not have seen the show yet, or when this was up here, we put these up. This was actually for the 13 fallen soldiers recently, and the last 13 fallen in
pulling out of Afghanistan.
Yeah, when Mr. Biden's horrible leadership cost them their lives. And then we added a 14th a little while later. And the 14th is actually for all of the fallen law enforcement officers who actually are fighting a battle, but on their own home front.
Yes.
They don't get a fight overseas and come back. They're fighting it here.
Yep.
And now that we don't have our presence in the Middle East to stop that, I'm hoping that it doesn't come back here, but I have a feeling it's going to.
It's interesting because the guy that we had here, Tommy, you should check him out on some of the videos that are our previous videos. He fights that battle every day in Portland. And did you know I saw in the news a couple of days ago how Portland was pleading now. Portland residents are pleading for police officers to come and to save them from this gun violence that's happening every single day there. What do you think is supposed to happen when you pull the police out?
You know what? You know, if they're pleading for it, maybe when they go to vote next time, they'll vote in some Republicans who are pro-law enforcement.
Yeah.
That might be a simple solution. And then guess what? Then when the police have the right backing of the mayor and the council and all that, then they're going to have law enforcement that wants to come back and work for them.
But when there's a belief that the police officers and their history has been, quote, known to enslave black people, by the way, the left will not definitely want the police force back because it symbolizes a slavery or a marginalization, I can't say it right, marginalization of certain people.
Well, I mean, they're going to get what they're going to get. Then it's because if the left, you can't have want the law enforcement there, but yet not want the law enforcement there.
Or want certain parts, or want to
You either get law enforcement or you don't. Law enforcement is enforced, and sometimes enforcement requires there to be a gun and a big stick. Unfortunately, that's part of law enforcement.
Why would you want law enforcement when you can get a counselor to do that?
Oh yeah, I'd like to see a counselor go and disarm a guy with a gun.
De-escalation tools.
Okay, yeah. I mean, as a counselor, sometimes is someone's hyped up on meth. Can you really de-escalate with them?
Well, can I conflate a story?
Sure.
So the Texas shooting at a school this week. This kid was in a classroom and he took out a gun, which I don't know how he got through, but he took out a gun and shot 3 of his friends because of bullying.
Well, I don't think you call them friends.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't call them friends, but they were his former friends, and somehow bullying came out of the reason why he handled that situation. So there were no counselors there to de-escalate that situation that escalated so fast.
Exactly, and that's the thing is that sometimes things escalate so fast you can't. Even law enforcement isn't even there. But
yeah,
the thing is, law enforcement does get a lot of de-escalation training.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think during a city council meeting, one of the chief of police for the city of Estacada had actually said that they do that at least once a month. They go into additional training for mental health issues and for de-escalation and how to fix verbal altercations and basically how to avoid violence in any way possible. They go through that on a normal basis.
Right. They do have some DEIC training too as well.
Yeah, they go through that too on a normal basis. It's because they understand that there's that piece of it, and not every law enforcement can be a counselor.
Yeah.
But at the same time, not every counselor wants to go out. I don't know about you. Do you want to go as a counselor? Do you want to go out to a guy that has a gun or a guy that has a knife and be out there? It's just you, no law enforcement, no one with a gun, because they've defunded all that.
Yeah.
Do you want to go and try to de-escalate that, or maybe an armed situation where someone's having a domestic issue?
I want to know from the audience what they think about that. But I personally, Joel, in answer to your question, I want to be the second responder. I don't want to be the first responder, because you have to stabilize the person, establish some safety. Even first aid training tells you that. Mm-hmm. You had first aid training. You have to, when there's a crisis, you want to make sure the area is clear. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure things are stabilized, or people are stabilized before the emergency technicians can go and work on that scene. Mm-hmm. If I'm the one first on that scene and people are running around everywhere and it's a crisis point, that's not a good time for counseling.
Yeah, I agree. I mean that's not a good time for much of anything except for just trying to control the situation.
Control the situation.
And once you control the situation, then you can bring in a counselor. I think it's a great idea to have counselors on staff with the law enforcement that can be called in to de-escalate a situation if there's time to bring them in.
Yes.
So that's the thing, if there's time.
Well, and notice I said as a secondary, because you do. I mean, counselors have their place in crisis situations. They're crisis counselors. Mm-hmm. But while the crisis is in play, it's probably not the best time to do that. I can't talk to you if you're really upset, can I?
Well,
no.
I was saying that, but they actually do have psychologists on most police departments, especially larger ones.
Actually, the one we talked to, Tommy, he has a lot of knowledge of that.
Well, not just that. Do you know that a lot of the hostage negotiations go through a lot of psychological training, and sometimes you even
absolutely
have like
clergy sometimes.
Yeah, well, also doctorates in that, and they also have clergy too. Yeah,
yeah.
There's lots of what are they called? What do they call not clergy. You said clergy's in my head. I can't get it out now.
Right.
It's the when it's the chaplain.
Chaplain.
Hey,
that's
producer.
right.
Thank you.
Hey, hey. Your wife is there for you in season and out of season. There you go. So yeah.
But yeah, they have chaplains. So, but
yeah.
I was mentioning earlier about the board, the war being over in Afghanistan, but also being home.
Right, I heard you.
Let's talk a little bit about the war on the border.
There's a war on the border,
and the war recently there's an all-out shooting war on the border.
Yeah, but Kamala Harris hasn't been down yet.
Oh yeah, she hasn't been down there.
She's talking to kids.
Yeah, she's talking
to paid actors, kids who have to demand pay to come see her. Yeah. That's a problem.
I think
you can see craters with your eyes. Go figure. You guys got to watch that. It's so funny.
You got to wonder, what's she doing? Why is she not dealing with the actual issues we have?
Because she's reading the paid actors.
But here's the thing: is you got the same thing with Biden. He ain't doing it either. So
right,
the whole Biden Harris White House is a complete disaster.
Yes,
and that's the thing is going up in flames.
Yeah,
but. On the crisis on the border, when I said it's all shooting war, mm-hmm. the cartels are actually in an all-out shooting war with the Border Patrol. They're firing on Border Patrol stations.
Yes.
So the big issue is the Border Patrol is trying to, of course, stop the trafficking across of drugs. But the biggest one, their biggest money makers for cartels, isn't drugs.
Nope.
They make $500 million.
Yes.
A month.
Yes.
I think it's $500 million a month on the average cartel trafficking humans
Yes.
to and from the United States.
Humans.
Yeah, and I'm not saying
And that's a wide array of reasons why they do that.
And that's not just people. I'm not talking about trafficking people like,
Yeah.
they want to come up here and have a good life in the United States. No,
Right.
They're trafficking them for like the sex trade
Yes.
and for all the other things, for slavery and everything else that they use them for.
Yeah.
They are being trafficked.
And this is men and women.
This is men and women, kids, adults.
Yeah.
All that. I don't know the stats on anyone in the elderly cage, but it's definitely
right. I couldn't find any.
And recently, there's actually been an uptick in Native American women disappearing out of some of the northern central states.
Wow.
Yeah, that's been it's like doubled in the last few months. And so,
any specific reason?
They haven't identified a reason yet, but they think it's just because they're connecting it to the weakness of the presidency and the border issues.
Yeah,
that it's easy to traffic them. They're basically taking advantage of the season.
Yes,
and so that is a major issue, and everybody's so hyped up about slavery.
Yeah.
But yet they fail to see, and this isn't slavery that affects black or Indian.
Keep on.
It affects basically affects all colors.
It affects all colors.
All colors, doesn't matter.
Yes.
All genders.
We don't talk about this slavery.
Gender and race do not matter in this point.
Yes.
Everything is there.
Yes.
And so this is something that everybody can connect to on equally.
Yes.
And I think everybody can come onto the common ground to say, yes, this is an issue that we can join in together to try to fight. And then finally something we can agree on, right?
Yes, but yes, we can agree on this, guys. The sex industry is a billions of dollars industry. I can't talk tonight. Industry. So do you see that going away? Because there's a lot of people it's serving. I
don't see it going away. And that's something that's going to happen but the thing is we can fight it by reducing it, by hardening our borders. And all countries should be hardening their borders, because if they can't get in traffic them from one country to the other, that's going to reduce that portion of it. Mm-hmm. And that's where the biggest portion of it is trafficking across our borders. And so by reducing that and putting a lockdown on that area, that allows our own countries to start focusing inward, as well as starting to deteriorate it in our own country and stopping it there where we can.
Yeah. And
so, we know that. That the border crisis, the trafficking of people across the border, and that crisis there, that's never truly going to fully 100% stop. But why don't we take it down from 500,000 people a month down to 10% of that, knock 90% of that down.
Yes,
anything save 450,000 people. And
anything is better than doing.
None of these numbers obviously are solid, but I'm saying we could if we cut that border issue, that's going to stop a lot of those problems. Well, reduce a lot of the problems.
Reduce. So that's another good reason to have some type of border patrol.
A border patrol, border wall. The wall is, and there's a good. If people ask, well, what do we need a wall for? I see no better example than exactly what you're seeing right now on the border, because
that's a humanitarian crisis.
It's a humanitarian crisis. Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we've allowed them to come into the United States by just walking across the border, and by now there's a shanty camps all along our border, and especially in this one area where it's under that overpass. Yeah. There's thousands and thousands of people there.
Isn't it El Paso?
I think it's El Paso, but there's actually other ones popping up in different parts of the country too.
Lots of immigrants under.
Yes, exactly. And I get alarm or Haitian and things like that. They're trying to get out there, and a border wall will at least stop them from being in our country and stop the trafficking. But I want to make sure that we don't conflate that humanitarian issue with the other issue we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And that is the 500,000 people trafficked each year across the rest of our border.
I was going to say,
including Canadian border.
The Canadian border, but it's not just the borders. Mm-hmm. I'm about to talk about R. Kelly.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay, well, R. Kelly. I was going to bring this up. By the way, check last week's show, we had Jay on, and he talked about the border and being at the border. So you want to check that out. I think,
and it rolls up nicely to what we're talking about today. So.
Absolutely. And Joel, the other thing is, so we have a lot of our viewers that are from Texas. I would love to get some people who are from, I'm calling you out, Texas. I love some people who are in Texas near the border to channel in on this conversation.
Please do, yeah.
Because we want to know what it's like firsthand. We hear this through the airways, so it's going to have
if they're down there on that border directly, and we can get those actual like photos and things.
Yes.
Please send them in. We'd love to put them up. Just send us in at the email to backwoodsbrothersllc@gmail.com, and then just give us permission to use it and give us the photo.
Yeah, because everybody's moving down to Texas, so we know some people from Estacada here moving down to Texas. So if you're watching us, you better be reporting in.
Not to mention, we actually have a lot of viewership that comes out of Texas as well.
Yeah.
So
in the shooting that I mentioned earlier, that was a shooting that was done in Texas as well. But I just put that in. Yeah, Mr. I Believe I Can Fly. Mr. I Believe I Can Fly was convicted actually a couple weeks ago on 9 counts, and he had 9 counts against him, which is a significant move on their part. Actually, the Me Too movement helped bring this back bring him to justice. So I want to give that credit there. But this was an attack on Black women, especially in the music industry. This was a sense of finality by him being brought to justice and seeing justice served. Women said that the singer abused them, and this began early in the 1990s. So this has been going on for a long time, Joel. And a lot of people go, well, why did it take almost 3 decades for this singer to come to criminal punishment? Well, they have some hypotheses as to why it took so long. The entertainment industry is an expensive network of enablers that allow him to stay concealed. He had a lot of confidants. He had a lot of employees in the music industry that were concerned about him.
Wasn't Epstein kind of along the whole area there?
Absolutely, Epstein.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Epstein, which they didn't intervene on his behavior. The second one is, according to the New York Times, the government drew attention to what was going on and described it as a settlement factory that kept his accusers from actually confessing what they were going through, keeping them quiet.
Here's $50,000.
Yes, offering money.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yep. Yes. And these evidences of Mr. Kelly's payments were also brought up in the courts as well. He exchanged money for them to keep their silence. So he was able to do that. And the third one, real fast, Mr. Kelly used henchmen. Now, you know what henchmen are?
Oh, yeah. Vinny and Guido.
Yeah, Vinny and Guido. To lodge threats against them of revenge. He blackmailed these women, made them feel fearful. He took photographs of these women. He also embarrassed them or threatened that he would embarrass them with disclosure of this information. So he really played on their fears. And lastly, he threatened them with some type of physical harm if they proceeded to go forward. Now, of course, if you're going to hear a conversation about this, you're going to also hear a left conversation. Mm-hmm. The left, they're saying that there's some cultural factors that may have helped Mr. Kelly get away with this behavior. They actually say that, one, experts, and I don't know who the experts say, but Black women have been historically thought of and accused of sexual misconduct and distrust, and therefore they should be ignored. That was the first one. So in that type of ministry of R. Kelly, when I guess he didn't help that a little bit, but
I disagree with the fact that say it's just Black women. I think a lot of women that are heavy in that industry probably carry that same connotation.
Yeah.
It's not right, but I believe it doesn't matter what color you are, you're going to get that same kind of connotation. Just like they say, oh, well, Asian girls are supposed to be more sexual and all that type of stuff. Or European girls are this or that.
Yes.
They might say it by a culture that area, but in this case, I think in this case we're talking about the industry. Girls in that industry, are more carry them more of that connotation. Oh, they're easy. They're just there for the money. They're there for the fame or whatever. Yeah. And so they'll do whatever it takes to get there.
Right.
And so I don't think that's specific to race. I think that's just specific to the actual industry that they're hanging around. Roadies.
Roadies.
No, they call roadies.
Well, and I actually I wouldn't even make this a black and white issue. Most of the listeners to his music were African American, black. Mm-hmm. And black women, and so he did have a lot of songs that were sexualized, and so he knew what he was targeting.
Yeah, he
knew who he was targeting. An abuser is not going to go after someone who knows who they are. They're going to go after someone who idolizes them.
Yeah.
Which actually we're going to talk about Stockholm syndrome later, and I can't wait with our guests. But some of this, there was a person who actually further pushed this idea of black women by saying our reality as a black woman in society, just in the view of black women, are saying that these girls are discounted as credible, and because of their race, their blackness.
One of our viewers is saying, "Yep, when you have money, you can get away with more," which is another area that they need to stop. Don't matter who you are, you should be put in jail.
Yeah. So. Yes. MUR Kelly was another campaign that started that assumed that a 15-year-old, and from this, there was assumption that 15-year-old black girls had the cognitive ability to manipulate and groom men. So that was another accusation. That 15-year-old black girls had the ability to manipulate and groom.
I don't think that they have any more ability than any other girl out there.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, everybody wants to make everything about race. Mm-hmm. Well, let's stop looking at race. Let's look at culture.
Let's look at culture.
Because culture isn't about race. I mean, especially not when you look at the United States. Culture is about culture. It's the area you live in. So, for example, if you were from, I don't know, New York, your culture is going to be slightly different than my culture over here.
Come on.
And
yes.
So,
and the rap culture is a culture.
Exactly. And so it's all about culture and the way that that people be brought up in. And so if you've been growing up in that culture, you're into that culture, you're going to have a different perspective view. You're going to have different, maybe even a different, I don't want to say morality level, but what's what I'm looking for? Like where you may be okay with some things that other people aren't.
Yeah.
So
you said it. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
it's interesting though, Joel.
I think it's about culture, not about race.
It's about culture.
And so often I think that's on everything, really. So.
It is. It's about culture, and actually, I would agree with you on that one. Here it is. If a 15-year-old has, and I'm talking from a counselor, if a 15-year-old has the ability to manipulate a grown man, and the grown man knows he's grown, mm-hmm. then it's not the problem with the 15-year-old, it's the problem with the man.
Exactly.
I mean, that's not a democratic talking point. I'm sorry.
I think that's an accountability issue.
Yeah.
Is that anyone who says that is trying to remove the accountability on who's actually accountable, and that's a big issue with
accountability.
With I'd say our cross culture across the United States is accountability issues. People don't want to be accountable for their actions. They want to blame shift, or they want to try to excuse it in some way. Hey, when you do it, fess up, move on, say I'm sorry, and learn from it, or something, or change. But people don't want to change. They want to just be a blame shift and do it again.
I go take it back to what we talked about then. Mm-hmm. R. Kelly, there's a picture that's going to go up. He's talking to Gayle King. Uh-huh. And he just has a fit. He's like, man, I didn't do that to those women. I didn't do them. I didn't lock them in the closet, which was one of his songs. I don't recommend it. You listen to it. I think he was prophesying about what he was doing in there, actually. But he was just throwing a fit and claiming his innocence and and blame shifting. Mm-hmm. There was no accountability for him, and that's why he was able to get away with it. And people turned a blind eye.
Yeah, and people need to.
He's a star.
It's not only that we need to hold ourselves accountable, mm-hmm. and our friends and family need to hold us accountable, but also, we as society need to be able to hold people accountable too. Now, does that mean that we cancel culture, all that type of crap? No, it just means that.
Thank you. Let's not get it conflated with accountability culture. Accountability culture is not cancel culture.
Exactly. Accountability say, hey, you screwed up, fix it, let's move on.
Yeah.
So,
are you saying buy R. Kelly's music?
No. in this case, sometimes screwed up means that you need to go to jail. You know.
Well, no, we didn't say that about going to jail. Should we buy R. Kelly's music? Because he's in jail.
No, I'm saying is the accountability culture is you hold them accountable.
Right.
They've been held accountable.
But not cancel culture. You don't have to cancel him.
And we're getting into a whole other conversation of levels there.
Yeah.
Where
we talked about cancel culture.
We should talk about that again another time. So
yeah.
But yeah.
I'll wrap up this segment by saying that after the New York jury convicted R. Kelly on all 9 charges against him, the federal prosecutors had a simple message for the people who testified against him. And you know what they were?
What's that?
Thank you. I'd rest my case.
Boom. And you know what? That's a perfect time to put us right into break time.
Awesome.
Hey guys, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to have our special guest on with us to talk a little bit about some of their experience and some of their views when it comes down to this crisis that we're dealing with here, not only just on the border, but like all over the world.
Yeah.
And so stick with us, and we'll see you here in about 5 minutes. Thanks.
I'm Brandy with Backwoods Wives, and this is a Backwoods Minute. The moments you think you can't are opportunities to prove that you can. When you see something that's in your way that's telling you can't do it, look for a way that you can do it. A good example in my life would be with my illness. I have lupus, which is a pretty severe illness. It could mean a lot of things. It could be fatal. I've been told my whole life I can't do things. When I was a kid, they told me I would never make it to my teenage years. Once I made it to my teenage years, they told me I wouldn't make it out of my teenage years without being in a wheelchair permanently. As an adult, I was told that I'm lucky to be alive, I'm lucky to be walking. I'm still walking with a cane, but I'm still walking. I found ways to show the world that even though you're telling me I can't do this, I'm going to show you that I can. A lot of people would say that somebody in my position and my condition wouldn't be able to do work, which I don't work in a job that pays me, but I am a president of a nonprofit organization. I work every day. I've found ways to take what I'm told I can't do and turn it into I'm going to show you that I can. And I think that's something super cool that I've been able to do because I had the right support system in my life. I have God as my foundation, who's always been there to be my cheerleader, basically. And I found the right people to surround myself with, people that will support me in everything I do. They cheer me on, and they don't wrap my life in negative. They wrap my life in positive. And the more positivity you have around you, the more love you have around you, the more you can do. If you think of your world as a big obstacle, then it's going to be a big obstacle. If you think of your world as open doors, then there will be open doors. It's all about what you perceive it as and what you're going to look at it as. And that's, I think, the most important thing is that you can change your world with your perception of it. You can change how you react to things. And that's that. Thanks for taking a minute. We'll see you next time.
We're going to talk about some of the psychological effects of sex slavery. And this is, and actually, we have a special guest coming on with us. So we're glad to have her here. Her name is Brandy the Amazing Litkie. I finally got it right, sis.
Yes.
And I call her sis because she's like a sister to me and my brother over there.
Some of you guys may have known, have seen her on camera. We call her as the Backwoods Wives.
Yes, but
One of them.
One of them.
Yeah, one of the Backwoods.
But we
Wives.
also call her on a good day, Your Highness. Okay.
I usually call her yes, dear.
Yes.
No, you don't.
Because there's a lot of victimization and there's a lot of psychological effects that can happen that can lead to a serious emotional mental health. And that's really dear to my heart is the emotional mental health of refugees, of those who are a part of sex slavery. Some of that is post-traumatic stress, depression, even substance abuse, and narcotics and eating disorders as well for some of the women and men who have dealt with sex slavery. And Brandy, I thought you would be a perfect person as a woman to just speak to some of the psychological effects of that.
Sure. I think there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of people that say, I can speak on abusive relationships because I've experienced that before Joel, obviously. I grew up kind of not really feeling great about myself. I had a really low self-esteem. And so my first serious relationship was a very abusive one. It started with the nasty comments. At the time, I was like a normal average-sized girl. There was not an ounce of extra fat on me, yet this man was able to make me feel like I was the fattest cow in the world. And he broke me down. He knew exactly what to do. He broke me down to that point where I thought nobody else knew me but him, and nobody else would want me but him. And that comes with, not only did I have low self-esteem because the way I kind of grew up, I was sick. So I grew up with an illness that, sometimes if you grow up, some people grow up sick and they're very, very strong. I had to become an adult to be that way. So at the time, I really believe men like this or boys like this can sense when somebody is weak, and they pick on that and they push you down and they bring you down to that level so low. And then, I would always make excuses like, he's never going to actually physically hurt me. He's never going to do that. And so I stayed. And it turned into a physical abuse. And I stayed. And it turned into sexual abuse. And I stayed. And I think there is a very big misconception of, for one, a woman who stays wants it. And that's not true. A woman who stays is weak. And that's seriously not true. And people don't necessarily understand why they would. For me, it was a lot to do with self-esteem. I didn't realize that I deserved better. And then once I had gotten to that point, he made me believe that that was all I was worth. I was only worth that.
Well, yeah, and to dispel some of some people's excuses or reasons or to put behind it, you came from a good solid home.
Yeah. I came from a Christian home. Mom and dad were together my whole childhood. We went to church every three days a week. I was in the youth group. I was a Christian. I've been a Christian my whole life. I had a youth group to run to talk to, and I still didn't tell them. I had friends that never knew what was going on.
Did your faith, since you said that, give you an idea somehow that you needed to be faithful to this man?
Sometimes. A little bit. Kind of. I mean, my faith was there to help keep me going, knowing that, like, a small part of me was like, God wouldn't want this for you. You need to get out of this.
Okay.
And another part of me was, well, if this is your person, you need to help him through this. You need to help him learn how to not do this. And so it's kind of like an internal battle of, do I stay and be faithful and help him, or do I run and find what's worth it for me? Luckily, it's funny because it took a friend that wasn't a Christian to tell me, you need to get the hell out of there. And she helped me. And
how does she help you?
so the story's a little colorful. But there was a night, he knows what I'm talking about. It's the only time I've ever hurt somebody. It's the only time I've ever physically hit somebody. I was house sitting with a friend of mine. Her name was Brandy as well, which is really funny. If she's out there somewhere in the world, hi, thank you. Awesome. I don't know her anymore, but she saved my life. We were hanging out. He was supposed to be there. It was some sort of holiday. I think it was Valentine's Day. And he showed up, came home, like we were kind of all hanging out there for a month or so. He came back drunk in his car, but this girl was driving his car. Now, the backstory to this girl is he would use her against me. We'd go to parties and he'll rub her shoulders and be like, you wish you were her. And like, he would really use her against me. And so I didn't like her. And I blamed her instead of him. She was driving his car. He was wasted in the back seat. His pants were around his ankles. It was pretty clear what was going on. And at this point, my friend had spent the last 3 hours saying, you deserve better. You are stronger. You are better than this. And I walked down the stairs and I just punched him right in the face. And I said, I'm done. And we took him drunk, sent the girl home, told her to get out. My friend said, you better leave before it's you. Put him in the car, drove him to some parking lot. And, this is at the time when you can lock people in their cars. Locked him in his car, threw his keys in the trash, and left. And then the next morning I saw him trying to struggle out of his car, and that was the end for me. I was able to say goodbye and be done. Now, he wasn't done, but I was able to be done.
Yeah, and I recall, how far did he follow you, and how long?
This was in Las Vegas. I had I had a couple relationships after him before I met you. I had moved to Oregon from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I had made it to Oregon, and I hadn't heard from him for a little while, and this is when I'd met you, and then all of a sudden, he was calling my work. He was showing up at my apartment. Mind you, I didn't tell him or anyone he knew where I was. He found me thousands of miles away in a totally different state where my work was, where I lived, everything, and he was claiming to be my fiance. I mean, it was really scary. Luckily, I had, at that time, I finally had met Joel, and we had him. He stayed with me and watched out for me, and it was scary.
Speaking of that, I know Joel said we have 10 minutes, but I want to ask you how. So it sounded like along the way your friend said, this is who you are. And for an abuser, the person who's abused, every sense of individuality and independence is taken away from them.
Absolutely.
Where they are totally married and enmeshed with their abuser, right? Mm-hmm. So when she began to tell you who you were, you began to believe it. Going into another relationship, as awesome as your relationship with Joel is, how did you flip the script in your mind?
It took me a little bit because luckily I had a couple people before Joel. My other relationships before him, one of them was also abusive, but I was able to cut it before it became physical. And then the other one right before him was the same. They were great for a while, and they came from a Christian home, and he was this really good Christian guy, and he, his family thought I was a bad influence on him, which was really weird. Wow. And he did one thing that was emotionally abusive to me, and I was done. And I stopped it. And at that moment is when I found my strength. And then meeting Joel, I mean, I got to credit him. He has taught me how to become a lot stronger than I was. He was always very encouraging of being my own person, telling me to F off if I'm being a jerk. Don't let me ever make you feel that way. And he's always been really wonderful.
And you have no qualms about telling me to F off.
Nope.
When you do.
I don't.
So, yeah, and I want to identify why we had Brandy on and what she was talking about, how it connects back to the sex trafficking, slavery piece we're talking about. And what it is a lot of people that are caught in that sex trafficking, they kind of go through the same thing.
Cycle.
And you start getting into what Stockholm syndrome, which we'll identify here in a little bit.
Actually, real fast while you're saying that, brother, I know Brandy brought the term Stockholm to me when we were talking about this segment. So,
yeah, exactly. And so we got a definition for you once Brandy's back at her master controller there. And so, but it's important people understand that there's different kinds of parts of the sex slavery and the human trafficking piece. There's a human trafficking piece where it starts out as something like this, and then they eventually get pulled into something else. R. Kelly's a good example of that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There's the ones where they're snatched up and they're taken, but they go through the same process to break them down and make them think that their world, and they basically control the influences on their world.
Yeah.
And so therefore they believe what's being told and what they're seeing.
Yes.
And don't realize there's more outside that box.
The big part of that is they do. I mean, in abusive relationships or in trafficking, they make you feel like your world is that person. That person holds the key to you eating, to you sleeping, to you drinking, to you surviving. They become your entire world, your entire influence, your entire everything. And you're so dependent on them that you will do whatever it takes to survive.
Dependent on them.
And the key thing is, whereas a healthy relationship is not the dependency on a single person, but the exposure of the rest of the world to show your unity with that person.
Yes.
So that's where
there's no hierarchy.
You don't have a hierarchy. It's, well, like I said, it's when you see the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And you see all the other stuff out there, and you go, well, I'm with this person because I want to be, because it's who they are.
Yes.
And it's not what
it's a choice.
Told. It's a choice.
Not
this is all
manipulated. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's the difference between a healthy relationship and something like this. So
brother Brandy, if you, and we've done this before, but if you had a chance to talk to, and we're hoping this gets to someone, if there's a girl who's in an abusive relationship, if there's a girl who needs to get out of sex slavery, what words can you share with them?
My biggest thing is find the Aspire app. It's an app that is, it's looks like a weather app or a news app that you can use and set up. It helps you get out. You press a button and you have emergency contacts there that can help you find safety. And it'll also record what's happening at the time. So it's a big deal. The next thing I would say is find out who you can trust, believe in yourself, and the most dangerous time is when you're getting out. So the most deadly time when you're in that kind of relationship is when you leave. So you need to have a plan. You can't just be, okay, I'm done. You have to have people there protecting you. You need to be prepared and have a plan. But know, like, you're worth more than that. You're worth way more than that. Fight for it.
Definitely. Well, I know you have to get back to what your parts here, and
wow, I'm probably tired of looking at the sky.
I'll look at the exact same
brother.
The entire time.
Stockholm syndrome was a phrase that was used. It's not part of the DSM, but it was coined in 1973, a year before I was born, and it simply is an emotional response. It happens to some in abusive or held hostage, victimized relationships when they have no positive influences in their lives. They have no positive feelings towards themselves, but they have positive feelings towards the abuser. So when Brandy was talking about a little bit almost like she was in this situation to possibly help him, that's possibly where some of these women with R. Kelly or some of these women who are in that sex slave culture think, or trained to think.
Yeah, and I mean, I've obviously never been in that culture, but I've talked to some people who have actually escaped that culture.
Wow.
I talked to some, been doing different mission trips when I was growing up and stuff, and they basically the biggest thing that they do is they break down their self-worth.
They break down their self-worth.
And the reason why they break down their self-worth, and then usually in a lot of cases, they get them addicted to drugs too.
Yep.
So they make them They break down their self-worth and they get dependent.
Yes.
And so when you don't have a self-value and you're with dependency, your only option is to go to the source that you can get that dependency fixed from, and that you feel is going to give you some sort of value.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say this too, real fast. As you guys know, I was a minister, and one of the things that I've learned from serving my Jesus in my faith is that the enemy is an abuser.
Yes,
he's an abuser. And when you know who you are in Christ, when you know who you are in him, that's when the abuser or the enemy fights harder. So when actually Brandy was talking about the most dangerous part, which I didn't actually really come to grips with until she said that, is when you know who you are and you're trying to get out. That is, I can see that, because the enemy runs amok. Oh my gosh, what do? I no longer have control.
Exactly. And it's all about control for them.
It's all about control.
That's what it's all about, control.
Yeah.
And they're going to do what they can to maintain control. And that means they might press harder on whatever that control mechanism is.
Yeah.
And at some point, if they feel like they lose control, they just cutting it out altogether is a way to regain that control.
Yeah.
Hence is why there's a lot of murders and stuff in that trade.
Yes. So if you're in the situation, get out. I've heard of some flight attendants actually helping some women who actually left messages in places like the restroom and said, I'm being held captive, and they intervened and some things have stopped. So do whatever, be smart, have a plan like Brandy said.
There are countless organizations out there, and pretty much every city out there, at least every major city, that you can reach out to. And
can we put that list up?
We'll find it. We'll post it on our website.
Okay.
But it's safety shelters, and so there may not be someone watching that's in that situation that's on our show specifically watching it, but you might know somebody that's in that situation. So it's good to have those resources.
Yeah.
To share.
Yeah. So thanks, Brandy.
Yes.
Wow.
So,
not an easy story for you to hear, is it?
Yeah, and I mean I've heard it, and I never like hearing it.
Yeah.
When his last time was when he actually called to the store that she worked in at the time, and I was sitting there with Brandy and said, "Oh, this is her fiance," to trying to get a hold of her, and the store actually said, one of their friends there said, "Oh, it's funny because he's sitting here with her right now." And then I think he drove by the house. I think it was a day or two later after that. So he had actually traveled up there to find her. So
up there to find her.
Yeah, and I think once it was obvious I was in the picture, then he backed off of that.
Yeah,
point.
she left that zero and got a hero. There you go. Left that zero and got a hero. And her hero was sitting there right there, and he was like, oops.
Yep.
In your face. Wow.
She's more my hero anyways.
There you go.
But yeah, so it's been good, and I mean, and everything she said is spot on. And I think I think one of the biggest things is for people to understand the other side of it, so they understand how to help those people.
Well, I'm glad you just said that, because I have a couple of, if you are in that situation and you get out, you want to get counseling. You want to get counseling right away. You want to get treatment for post-traumatic stress, as I talked about, can help with those types of traumas, and you want to get those immediately. Also associated with recovery. You want to recover from that. Some anxiety and long-term depression. Psychotherapy also helps with that. Psychologists are there to teach helping coping mechanisms. Like Brandy already had those natural coping mechanisms. Like, I'm going to get out. I'm better than this. Therapy teaches women that this is who they are. You are strong, and men too.
Let's be clear. It's not just women that are in this.
No,
there's men.
There's men too.
Exactly.
It's a little bit more difficult with men because we're stubborn.
Yeah. Exactly. But still, there are men in it. It's not gender. Like we said, there's no gender. There's no race in this one. This is the problem that affects everybody across the board.
Everybody. So when it comes to the border, this is where we should all unite.
Exactly. This is something that I can't see anybody disagreeing to want to argue on this point, because this is something we all agree is a problem.
Yes.
We all need to stop. There might be a little bit of disagreement on how to stop it.
Right.
But I believe most of those ideas out there will work altogether. So a couple comments from our audience.
Did you say customers almost?
I almost said customers.
Thank you, customers.
Customer audience. from our audience, our awesome viewers. It says, "Oh, and the pizza and bartender things were there are codes to use." So apparently, I think there's a pizza or a bartender code or something you can use.
When you go to a pizza place, you order a special pizza.
Oh, okay. So according to our film producer here, Awesome Brandy, she says when you go to a pizza place,
We should have her back on.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But she says there's special drinks or special pizzas you can order. They'll signal them. Some places do that.
You can order those special.
You know, we've had a guest on here before, and we should have her on again. And
Yeah.
she actually she runs a local pizza place. It's actually one of our customers on here.
Absolutely.
And that's for Hitch and Post. And
Yes.
that's Valerie. Valentine.
Yes.
Anyways, I want to ask her if she has one. I don't want to put that out there what that is.
Yeah.
Because everybody else knows.
Got you.
But at the same time, I'm not sure how to deliver that. But I'm kind of curious if she has something like that.
Will be good. Something to look forward.
A couple more comments.
Yeah.
What do you think about environmental effects that plays on people growing up? People being able to do bad things to others, not to have remorse. Not to have remorse.
Ooh, interesting. Environmental. So more like nature nurture.
I think that's what. I feel
Environmental.
Like, yeah, I think that's what they're talking about.
Yeah. So if I understand the question, it's whether environmental factors into play. Yeah, there are environmental factors in play. You know, I meet with a lot of people who have been abused, and they were in an environment of an abuser. Guys, I want to say this. I'm in this business because I believe everybody can change. And maybe I'm looking at it through rose-colored glasses, but I believe I know me, and I hope people believe in me that I can change some of my bad behaviors. So, yes, there's environmental factors, but what I ask that person to do is to get out of the environment. If you are tempted with drinking, you're not going to go to a bar. Exactly. So you're going to change your scenery. You're going to change your scenery, you change your mind. If your mind's changed, don't go back to the same scenery. But there are environmental factors that might sear a conscience to cause a person not to have remorse.
I'm a heavy believer that no matter what happens, as long as a person has a cognitive ability,
yes,
they're responsible for their own actions.
Yeah.
So they get to make their own choices in the end. Like Brandy, she made the choice and she gave herself justification for why she was there.
Yeah.
But in the end, she also made the choice to get out.
Right.
And so, everybody in the end gets a chance to make their own choice. Their own choices.
Did you say she made a choice to be there?
Well, yeah, she could be in this where she was. She made a choice, but she had her reasons why and her own justifications to herself why she was there.
Gotcha.
Why she stayed.
Gotcha. Okay.
But eventually, she made the choice to get out.
Yep.
And so,
yeah.
And now, like I said, I don't want to completely discount all the other pieces, but there's in the end, everybody has the choice that they make is their choice. Mm-hmm. So even if you have a gun pointed at you, you have the choice to follow the orders of the guy with the gun, or you have the choice to not do it.
Do you think some of these women actually that are involved in sex slavery actually had a choice to be there, or do you think they were captured?
I think
against their will.
I believe that they could be taken against their will. They could be, and that all that type of stuff. I get that. There's situations, and I'm not saying that they have a choice to be in that situation,
Gotcha.
but they have choices along those ways. So, eventually, the purpose of a lot of the human trafficking is, they try to turn something into prostitution, something into meals, something into just
lots of promises.
Yeah,
lots of promises for a better life.
And this is one example that people could use when I say choices.
Right.
They have the choice to comply with what they're saying or not to. When they don't comply, you know where that goes sometimes. Or they choose to. And I'm not saying that's the right choice or what. I'm not going to even try to get in that down road because I don't know.
Yeah.
I do believe that everybody has a choice at some point to do one thing or the other.
I believe that you can be so brainwashed where you believe there's no way out.
And I believe that brainwashing is definitely a thing. You're still making your choice.
I mean, the media is doing that right now. We're all slaves of the media. Come on now.
Yeah, but like I said, and I'll use it the most extreme situation out there to give. So even the most extreme situation, the guy with the gun is holding you. Say you either push a button or I shoot you. You have the choice to push the button or not.
Right.
So, or even if it's if you have your daughter here, and I say you push the button or I shoot your daughter.
I'm pushing that button.
Well, I'm saying you still have the choice.
But I have the choice.
The
I know what you're
saying.
saying. Yes, the choice.
And I'm trying to say there's a choice there. Now, is it always a good choice? No.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a crappy choice.
Right.
But
sometimes you just don't know until you get there.
Exactly. And I'm just the whole purpose of what I'm trying to say about the choice is that either A, you have a choice that either leads you to the situation, or you have a choice in how you work through the situation.
I'm interested also in the recovery of these women. You know, I might say something unpopular, and with a lot of guys, but I deal with a lot on a daily basis of men who delve into pornography, and I'm not shaming men and women who are into pornography, but at the same time, we have to look at how far back that effect goes. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at pornography, that person that you're looking at might be there against their will on that screen.
It's very possible.
And so it's just kind of being mindful of when you're watching something, think about what it took for that to end up on your screen.
Exactly. And these days, so much of that, I'm sure, comes from God knows where. I mean, and I doubt that the porn industry is making that big of an effort to stop it when they're making hundreds of billions of dollars a year on that type of stuff. So
but if men or women are struggling with pornography, there's help for them too.
And let's just be very clear too. When we talk about the sex slavery and sex trafficking,
it's not just limited to them.
It's not. Yeah. Well, I'm saying it's not just the that they're being taken and they're being sold and someone has them in a basement somewhere, or they're prostituting on the street. Mm-hmm. There is a big portion of that. I'd say a large portion of that is like online pornography and stuff. That's a big portion of there, especially the underground stuff too, and kids and everything. That's
interesting because the three sex venues are online, in hotels, and sporting events. Those are the three.
Let's see. I'm and there's I want to roll back real quick to a couple comments from
customers. You guys are customers today.
I don't know why you guys are customers. Technically, if they buy merch, they are customers. Something on here we're talking about the choice, and something that was actually said. You have the choice, and let's flip that choice to the other side of it now. The abuser, the other choice to abuse or not to abuse.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a choice in theirs too.
You don't get a free ride with that.
They have a choice to end that as well.
Absolutely.
So the choice goes on both sides of it. So.
It does. And I've seen some abusers in recovery, and they don't abuse again. So this whole thing of once you're an abuser, you can't change. Well, if there's a will, then you'll make a way.
So another comment is some stay some stay with the abuser because it's safer than escaping and not knowing where he is.
Absolutely. So, because at least that's a good point. Because at least you know where he is.
What's that? That song?
I know who my enemies are.
Well, I'm saying, what's that song where he like beats her and he gets to jail, but she goes home and gets a shotgun, is waiting for him at the other side of the door, and it's like, hey, he comes home. And
he gets no.
Yeah. It's I'm gonna go home and load my shotgun. That song.
No, who sings it?
I don't remember. I just remember hearing it on the radio a bunch. It's a popular song.
By the way, Joel's birthday is next week, October 18th.
19th.
Or 19th. Oh, wait, yes, I'm your best friend. I should know that. 19th, but we're celebrating on the 16th, which is going to be so fun. So maybe as we're driving down there, you can show me that song.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it somewhere.
Okay, because we're going shooting, so there you go. With one eye. Yay.
Yeah. I'm going to be on the other side of a bulletproof wall when he's shooting.
Oh, I'll remember that, bro.
So he doesn't know. We're going to give blanks. He doesn't know. He won't even know.
Won't know the difference as long as the kick's good.
You got a question here. I think one last question. I think the abuser, once an abuser, then that person is always at risk. I think that's a question.
I think that's a point. Of course. An alcoholic is always at risk of becoming one again. He has a propensity, has a soft spot, whatever you want to call it. He or she, generic. I do agree with that.
Yeah, another point that was made here is actually a pretty big one that we haven't even really touched on. Staying when your children are witnessing or even experiencing the abuse is not the right choice either. So basically, there's that portion too of
Staying for the children.
If you may be there and you may be able to handle what abuse is coming, but what about the exposure to those around you, like your children that might be seeing it?
Absolutely.
So that comes back to the environmental factor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The environmental factor.
Yeah, and that's a good wraparound. So good comment too, where that came from.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a simple conversation.
This
is not an easy conversation. This is a hard one to have.
But
that's why we're talking about it as being the epidemic. This is the true epidemic.
Epidemic, the true epidemic. The true pandemic.
This in this last couple of years has killed more people than COVID.
Yes.
But no one ever really talks about it.
No one ever really, but we only limit slavery to a sliver.
Well, they limit it to what is fitting the narrative and what they want to push or an agenda at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stop talking about the agendas. Let's start talking about some real problems. And this is a real problem. We have drug crisis problems. We have the sex trade problems. We do have a homeless issue out there, and that's a whole variety of issues.
Yes,
we have skyrocketing prices in our country and for food and other stuff.
Absolutely,
we have shortages on things.
Yes,
and yes. As much as we may not all agree on it, COVID is a problem, yes.
Yeah.
But, and I think the way we've handled it is an issue as well. And not to mention, there's been a skyrocketing violence in our cities.
Absolutely.
Portland. We have different different ideas on the cause or this president, this issue. But let's try to come together on some actual solutions. Not an agenda specific, not a political solution. Let's actually come to some real solutions to this.
Well, and I guess, that wraps around to one thing we can agree on as Democrats and Republicans. We agree that human life matters.
And it's exactly, human life matters. No matter who you are.
Human life matters.
Whether you're black, brown, white, yellow, or an alien, doesn't matter.
Yes.
Well, I guess if you're...
Well, if you're an alien...
You wouldn't be human, I guess.
Well, aliens did come in. Oh, I think there's one in the White House. I think he did come in.
We're probably gonna see a few here in October at Halloween, but
yes.
But you hit it right on the head. Human life matters. Let's start at the core of that. Let's all agree on one thing.
Yeah.
Human life matters.
Absolutely.
Let's all agree on another thing that when something is ending human life, that's an issue.
Yes.
And let's look at one of the bigger things out there right now is human trafficking is ending more lives than most anything out there right now.
Yes.
That's one of the biggest killers.
Yep.
And let's also look at too.
What can we do about it?
Not just the death portion of it.
Yeah.
But when you snatch someone from their home and you put them into that trade, that effectively ends the life that they had.
Yes.
That has stopped that road, and now they're on a whole new path, and that path could be a destructive path.
And it's not a path they're in charge of.
Exactly, and so. They're effectively ending a life there too. So there's a second
very good
kind of ending a life.
Yes, sir.
So let's not miss that as well. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But we get really into our conversations.
I love it.
But we also run out of time quickly.
But I got to tell you this: I'm going to go to the White House and have Kamala Harris read to me, because I really want to see the moon. And if she can enable that to happen and talk to me like I'm a 4-year-old, yay!
Hey, you know what? We got a great picture of Kamala Harris.
Is there one up? Can we put?
Let's put up our picture.
Let's put up the picture.
You know what? Let's put up our picture of Biden.
Yes.
These are the two people that are running our country right now. Honestly, I want you to look at the picture when they come up, and then I want you to think about these are the people that are in charge. See, I don't have nothing else.
So I guess the word out there is make your voice heard. Your voice counts. Your voice matters, and make your voice heard.
Yes, definitely. I saw a comment that says, "Stay friends with those that are in abusive relationships, so they have a contact. Save your peace." I'm rephrasing.
Stay friends.
Like if you have a friend that's is in an abusive relationship, stay friends with them. Stay in contact with them, so they have attachment to the outside world.
I love that. If you know someone who's in an abusive relationship, also I tell people don't make promises. Mm-hmm. Don't make promises that you won't tell. Don't make promises that those are you might your heart will be in the right place. I'm pretty sure to protect that person, but it's really not. And so be that person that you can be to that friend. Be consistent, but don't make a promise that hopefully you won't keep because they need that support.
And just the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
Yes.
I'm going to basically say it here. We'll put it up later in the link to the website and everything. But it's 1-800-799-SAFE.
Awesome. Safe.
1-800-799-SAFE.
Perfect.
So, and we'll put the website up here on the website. I mean, our Facebook here in a minute.
Yeah.
And it'll be there's chats. You can talk to them right there. You can text them. You can call them.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways to get a hold of them. I think there's emails and everything else.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of different things in there that you can get help on, or you can, if you know someone that's in a relationship, it doesn't help for you to make a call.
You have a voice, and one of the things I love about doing this show is these times.
Exactly.
Where we get to give you support.
Exactly.
And, we're with you.
Well, thanks you guys so much for spending time with us again tonight. We have a special situation next week.
Special situation.
This will be the first time for me. So
Crying Brigade right here. Crying Brigade.
I will not be here next week.
He'll be on vacation.
I'll be on vacay.
And he does not even want to hear from me.
Yeah.
Nope. His wife said nope.
Phone's off. Phone's off. Phone's off. But we have a special guest sitting in for me.
Yes.
You guys have seen him before. Yes. Should we tell him who it is? Or
Let's tell him. Let's lock him in. We'll lock him in. If you're watching tonight, you're locked in.
Tommy,
brother.
you're locked in.
Tommy, you're locked in.
Tommy, you met him before. He was the officer out of Gresham.
Gresham.
He's the Gresham
Police Sergeant.
No, he's a Gresham Police Association president or something.
President,
I may have got that wrong, but
we got it all mixed up. But you'll see him next week.
He will be here
co-hosting.
He'll be here co-hosting with you next week.
Yeah.
And, I might watch the show. I might not. I don't know. Find out.
Okay. Well, we're gonna be on our P's and Q's because my co-host is watching, so we're gonna make sure it's like that. We want your input.
I mean, you're awesome, and I know you guys have a great show.
Thank you, brother, and have a good time on your vacation.
Oh, definitely. I need it. We're leaving the state.
Wow. Where are you going?
We're gonna go to Idaho.
What's your number?
What?
So, what's your number so we can call you?
No. Let me turn that phone off.
This is where we are in real life.
So, but yeah, I'm gonna be out of state, and I'm gonna enjoy.
Well deserved.
No restrictions.
Yes. Are you gonna ski?
I'm not gonna ski.
I would love to see you on skis.
So if I ski, I will ski in a bikini thong.
I would not love to see you on skis. Okay.
There you go. I got out of that one easy. Okay, guys. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Absolutely.
Tell your friends. Punch the like button right now. You can do it. Just punch that like button. It's right there. Boop. And if you haven't done it yet, just right below that is actually the subscribe
like right
button.
now.
Yeah. Don't wait. It's also there's a subscribe button if you're on YouTube.
Yep.
And if you haven't yet, there's a follow button kind of over that way. You can push, and there's a share button kind of right there. You can push, and then you can share it to all your friends.
Pick any four.
Please bring in people, and then there's a link kind of over that way. That way, it's actually a link to our website.
Awesome.
And then when you go on the website at the top, you'll find where you can get to the store for merchandise.
Absolutely.
So, okay, guys, I think I gave you a nice tour there.
Yeah. You did.
All right,
I'm gonna do it right now.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much, and remember.
Start a conversation.